A great show as always, and welcome to Hannity. Yes, the polls are closed in the Pennsylvania's 18th district special election. We'll have updates throughout the hour and also what it means. Now, we also have major developments. Breaking news tonight, President Trump scoring another big win after visiting California and viewing border wall prototypes. And, of course, that means he is one step closer to fulfilling his campaign promise and, yeah, building that wall. And also tonight, President Trump blasting the governor of California and the liberal mayor of Oakland for protecting criminal illegal immigrants who are posing a serious threat to you, the American people. We have all of that, plus several stunning new revelations about the Clinton bought and paid for dossier tonight. According to a brand new book out today, Barack Obama's 2012 campaign, they actually hired Fusion GPS. That's the firm that produced the phony Russian dossier. They were doing op research on Mitt Romney, and they funneled it through the same law firm. We have all the details. And former senior Obama State Department official Victoria Nuland started the process for the FBI to talk to former British spy Christopher Steele. And Steele, what we learned, actually doubted if the most salacious details and claims in his dossier about Donald Trump were even true. And tonight, we also expose the anatomy of the Russia lie and how Democrats and the media created one of the biggest hoax in American history. They've been caught red-handed after the House Intel Committee concluded there is no evidence of Trump-Russia collusion. All of that information. Also, Rex Tillerson is out as the Secretary of State. Mike Pompeo from the CIA is in. And the Democrats, interesting, they are threatening to block the first woman nominated to be the CIA director. Why? Because of her history of being tough on terrorists. Ed Henry has a full report, and that's all in tonight's breaking news opening monologue. All right, President Trump's key campaign promise, build that wall, takes a major step forward today. The president toured border wall prototypes during a visit to San Diego, California. Let's take a look.
If you don't have a wall system, we're not going to have a country. There's a lot of problems in Mexico. They have a lot of problems over there. And they have the cartels. And the cartels, we're fighting the cartels. So we're fighting them hard. Nobody ever fought them like we fought them. And we're looking very much at the wall with some see-through capability on the other side and then solid concrete on top or steel and concrete on top. The round piece that you see up here or you see more clearly back there, the larger it is, the better it is because it's very hard to get over the top. It's really deterrent from getting over the top. Who would think? Who would think? But getting over the top is easy. These are like professional mountain climbers. They're incredible climbers. They can't climb some of these walls. Some of them they can. Those are the walls we're not using.
Those are the ones we're not using. All right, good idea. Now, the president also stressed the need for much tighter border security during a speech at a naval base in San Diego. Take a look at this.
Dangerous criminal and terrorist organizations relentlessly seek to exploit our immigration system. I've just come from a trip to the border where I met with our wonderful border agents, the Border Patrol and the ICE agents, unbelievable people, and reviewed prototypes of a new physical wall that will protect our border and protect our country. But that wall will stop so much. And we looked at the different prototypes, and it was fascinating. And we have 2 or 3 that really work. We had people trying to scale. We've done them every way. You know, I'm a builder. What I do best is build. Okay?
And the president is blasting the liberal bastion of California and their Governor Jerry Brown and, of course, the very liberal mayor of Oakland for championing sanctuary policies that literally put criminal illegal immigrants before American citizens and their safety. Watch this.
I think Governor Brown's done a very poor job running California. They have the highest taxes in the United States. The place is totally out of control. You have sanctuary cities where you have criminals living in the sanctuary cities. And then the mayor of Oakland goes out and notifies when ICE is going in to pick them up. And many of them were criminals with criminal records and very dangerous people. You would say dangerous people. And no, I think the governor's doing a terrible job running the state of California.
So the state of California is literally putting American lives in danger. Why? Because they won't follow the law, cooperate with federal immigration officials, and they are trying to do their job, arrest illegal immigrant criminals and remove them from the country. Now, this is a national security issue. Democrats, sadly, they're putting politics and subjecting Americans to unnecessary dangers. Now, if one American is the victim of a crime committed by people that have no business being in this country, that we know committed other crimes, then Democrats in California, well, they will have to own that. And what's so despicable about all of this is that Democrats continue to lie and misrepresent the facts when it comes to illegal immigrant crime. Here are just a couple of statistics that the left in this country don't want you to know about, according to the Migration Policy Institute. Look at that. About 820,000 of 11 million illegal immigrants in America are convicted criminals. The U.S. Sentencing Commission has also found illegal immigrants account for 13% of non-immigration related federal sentencing during the fiscal year 2016. Now, that's despite the fact that these illegal immigrants, they only make up 3.5% of the population. It is a stunning number, and that number only relates to federal sentences. It is much higher when you include convictions by state and local authorities. It is beyond shameful that the left, Democrats, Jerry Brown, this Oakland mayor, they ignore the irrefutable data that is out there, and they continue to protect criminal illegal immigrants. Liberals have also no clue about what actually happens at the border. I've been down there. We've shown you. I've been at least a dozen times from the Rio Grande to San Diego on horseback, on all-terrain vehicles, boats. Look at me riding a horse. I nearly fell off. A helicopter. We've been all over on boats and everything. I've seen the arrests of gang members. I've seen the drug tunnels. I've seen the drug warehouses and everything in between. In 2014, I sat in on this border briefing about security with then Texas Governor Rick Perry. During a 7-year period, illegal immigrants committed 642,000 crimes against Texans alone. This is a serious problem. When are we going to put the safety of the American people first? Watch this.
The criminal aliens have been responsible for about 642,000 criminal offenses. You look up there in the top left, sexual assault. There's close to 8,000 victims.
642,000 crimes
since 2008.
In Texas alone.
Yes, sir.
Over 200,000
Yes, sir.
individuals. Their criminal history reflects that they were committed over 642,000 crimes.
That's the cost of not securing the border.
That's the truth about illegal immigrant crime in this country. Now, the number one, they don't lie, but the left does lie. That's sad. Now, we actually sent a producer today to talk to protesters that were gathered outside of the area where President Trump was viewing these border wall prototypes today. Listen to what these protesters say.
No hate, no fear. Immigrants are welcome here.
Do we have an immigration problem in the United States?
No.
No.
The world, human beings have wandered the world since forever, since they crawled out of the swamps.
I immigrated 40-something years ago from one of those old countries of Trump's. I'm a very proud American. I'm here exercising my right to disagree with them.
I remember when you could just walk across back and forth to, Tijuana and San Diego. And I think things were better then.
Hear me loud, hear me clear. Trump, you're not welcome here.
I think Donald Trump is the most dangerous thing to happen to our country. I hate to say it, since World War II and Hitler.
Really? Really? Now, here's another piece of key information the left desperately wants to keep secret from you, the American people. We like to tell you the truth. According to the Center for Immigration Studies, President Trump's $18 billion border wall, it would actually pay for itself by reducing illegal immigrant crime. Now, that means drugs coming across the border, reducing the number of federal benefits going to illegal immigrants that don't respect our sovereignty, don't respect our laws. Now, also tonight, we have new bombshell information about that Clinton bought and paid for dossier. There's a new book called Russian Roulette. Now, it's written by liberal journalists Michael Isikoff and David Korn, and it's meant to smear President Trump, but instead, It is confirming very key pieces of information that we've been telling you all about. The Daily Caller, they obtained a copy of this book. They're reporting that Barack Obama's 2012 campaign, now this is fascinating, they actually paid Fusion GPS $3 million for op research on Mitt Romney. The Obama campaign, they were able to hide it, get this, by funneling payments to Fusion GPS through that law firm, Perkins Coie. That's the same one Hillary used. Now, we reached out to both President Obama and his campaign. They never got back to us. This is the exact same thing that Hillary Clinton did, except she and the DNC, well, they didn't pay $3 million. They paid over $12 million for a dossier that used Russian government sources and lies and misinformation and propaganda. And the Daily Caller is also reporting on another key piece of information from the book. Former British spy Christopher Steele openly doubted his own dossier to his friends, and especially one of the biggest pieces of fake news from the dossier. He had no clue if it was true. It was kind of 50-50 if it's true. And, of course, I'm talking about the completely ridiculous, still never verified, fabricated story about Donald Trump and hookers at a Ritz-Carlton in Moscow urinating in the bed. So Steele didn't even think it was true, but he included it anyway, and Hillary bought it. And then she gave it to the FBI. The FBI didn't do their job. They never verified. They never corroborated it, which is not only protocol, but that is part of what the FISA law tells them to do. And then the FBI used it to secure a FISA warrant. That same thing, Christopher Steele didn't even believe it, to spy on an opposition party candidate in an election year. And then, of course, they never told the FISA judge that the Clinton campaign and the DNC paid for these unverified, salacious lies, and nobody had any clue at all if it was true. Wow. And the Daily Caller is also highlighting how the book reveals a key source behind this Ritz-Carlton claim. Well, it turns out that it's a foreign businessman named Sergei Milian. Now, the thing is, Sergei is telling the Daily Caller that the dossier is, quote, garbage news. Well, that wasn't hard to figure out. Why didn't the FBI do it? And finally, the Washington Times reporting on yet another major revelation from the book. Senior Obama State Department official Victoria Nuland actually gave the original approval for an FBI agent to meet with Christopher Steele about the fake news dossier. And that means that the Obama administration was directly involved. Now, we also reached out to Nuland for comment. Her spokesperson, well, got back to us, but never directly addressed our questions. Instead, he just directed us to old interviews that she has done on the topic. Gee, thanks very much. Now, this new revelation is a very key piece of information. Why? Because it started the entire process of spying on a Trump campaign associate and then ultimately the Trump campaign. So how is it possible? Think about this. In the United States of America, the FBI never corroborated this phony dossier with Russian lies. It violated its own protocols, the FISA law itself. This is a massive abuse of power. And by the way, the full scope of this is now only slowly being revealed. And it's only because a few of us are working hard to get you the truth. Now, there's even more explosive information that, is going to come out in time. So I say to everybody out there, TikTok, stay with us. All right, finally tonight. Ranking Democratic member on the House Intel Committee, liberal Adam Schiff, well, we know he's proven to be a liar. For over a year now, he's been orchestrating nothing short of a propaganda misinformation campaign against President Trump to delegitimize him and hopefully even take him out of office. And by the way, Vladimir Putin would be proud of all the work Schiff is doing. Now, remember, the Russians' main goal, what did we learn, was to sow political discord. And guess what? That is exactly what Congressman Schiff has been doing in this country nonstop, even though he has now known the entire time no evidence, no proof whatsoever of Russia-Trump collusion. Take a look at Congressman Schiff. This is his evolution over time on this issue. Take a look at this.
What do you got hard?
Well, Chris, unfortunately, I can't go into the evidence that's being presented to the committee.
Do you have something hard that you can't reveal?
I can't reveal that, Chris. Of course, there's one thing to say there's evidence. There's another thing to say we can prove this or prove it beyond a reasonable doubt, or there's enough evidence to bring to a grand jury for purposes of a criminal indictment. I don't think we can say anything definitively at this point. We are still at the very early stage of the investigation.
Last March, you said you had more than circumstantial evidence of treasonous collusion with Russia. What specifically were you referring to? And please be specific, because if it's true, I do believe Americans have the right to know a year later what that is.
Well, I've certainly said that there's ample evidence of collusion. I've never used the word treason. Only Steve Bannon has used that word. But if you look at the facts that are already in the public domain, they're pretty damning.
Okay, that means he has no proof. Great job, Meghan McCain. And Congressman Schiff has proven to be a national embarrassment, deliberately, maliciously misleading the American people. And he's also, of course, selectively been leaking like a faucet to try and damage and discredit witnesses that appeared before the House Intel Committee. Now, immediately after Republicans reached their findings, Schiff races over to Conspiracy TV, MSNBC, where he wants a job desperately to spin a new narrative because the old narrative didn't work. Watch this.
It became apparent really from very early on, from almost a year ago with that midnight run to the White House, that the Republicans on the committee viewed their job as protecting the president, not investigating what took place. Essentially, it's the Intelligence Committee majority saying, we just rather not know if it's going to be bad news. And that is, I think, a betrayal of the promise that was made that we would follow the facts wherever they lead.
14 months you've been investigating this over at the Intel Committee. What are you and all your Democratic colleagues, potted plants? What have you been doing? And if you had the evidence, bring it forward. Bring it right here on this show. We'll show it to our audience. Anyway, after that appearance on Conspiracy TV, Schiff is continuing to play politics with zero evidence that he can put forward. Again, is this good for the country? Take a look.
Last night, the majority on the Intelligence Committee made the decision to prematurely shut down the Russia investigation, the only authorized investigation in the House of Representatives into what the Russians did in the last election, what the U.S. government response was, and the issue of any coordination or collusion with the Trump campaign. That was a terrible disservice to the country and the American people, and represented a reneging on the commitment that was made at the outset of the investigation to follow the facts wherever they lead.
14 months, no evidence, and he wants to keep going. Schiff is just an example of everything that is wrong in our modern-day political system. Now, he has no business being in Congress. Everything that comes out of his mouth is a lie. He has zero credibility. For example, just today, Democrats on the House Intel Committee announced that they're going to continue the Russia investigation on their own, and they're going to try and counter the findings from Republicans. All you think you would have known in 14 months. Here with reaction, our top story tonight, Fox News correspondent at large, Geraldo Rivera, NRA TV contributor, and former Secret Service agent Dan Bongino. You know, Geraldo, I watch this every day. Schiff is now saying, oh, they ended the investigation early. We have a Senate investigation. We have the special counsel investigation. We have the House Intel investigation. We have people on their own. And nobody has brought even a scintilla of evidence about collusion. How long do they get to lie to the country before enough is enough?
This has been collusion illusion, Sean. Congratulations to you. You have led the charge. You have been the one that showed that the tail is wagging the donkey here, that there's no there there. You know, the fact that the Republicans on the House Intelligence Committee have finally come to this conclusion, and I suspect the Senate committee will soon follow, and hopefully Mueller, the special counsel, will as well. It is clear now that if there was any proof that the President of the United States or the candidate prior to his presidency was colluding with a foreign power to rig the American elections, after 14 months, for goodness sake, we would have understood and learned it. It is clear there is no proof of collusion because there was no collusion. You have spearheaded this effort. It is a fraud to continue this narrative. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's say that there was real concern that this happened, that a foreign power did surveil and rig our election. We have now discovered that that may have been true, but it was not true that the president, the candidate, the president-elect was part of this conspiracy, Sean.
Dan Bongino, you know, there comes a point, okay, they really thought this happened, but it's interesting how this all boomeranged back. And what do we find? Yeah. Hillary paid for the Russian lies. Hillary paid for the unverified dossier. The FBI got her off the hook because they rigged the investigation into her. And then the FISA courts lied too. Yeah, I mean, the fact that all of that's there and you don't hear about it from the media, it's beyond any comprehension I have when they say they're supposed to be about finding truth and being fair, balanced, and objective. I just don't see it anywhere.
Yeah, Sean, let me throw another little tidbit at you that's going to scramble your eggs here. So you mentioned something in the opening about Victoria Nuland, who was working at the State Department, was a friend of the Clintons, who had a role in arranging this FBI Christopher Steele relationship. Well, who was Victoria Nuland? She was the chief of staff to a guy named Strobe Talbot. Well, who was Strobe Talbot? He was a high-ranking diplomat under the Bill Clinton administration. Who was Strobe Talbot's brother-in-law? Cody Shearer, who was working with Sid Blumenthal in Libya to get information to the Clintons about Libya, and also the Blumenthal operation was the second source of information, in addition to Christopher Steele, that made up the dossier file, which lied about Donald Trump. This is the Clinton dossier. It's been a Clinton scam the entire time.
You know, I never thought it would be this bad. An article comes out, Geraldo, and you've been in this business a long time. I'm throwing your 50th year on the air party, and you have had a career that nobody can rival, and I applaud you for all of it. I really do. But when you see a former New York Times, there's a picture, you know, Jill Abramson, and the headline is, she actually keeps an Obama doll in her purse for comfort.
So you should.
I'm like, I can't even wrap my arms around how sick and twisted and traumatized the left has been, because we need to give them to a lot of people in the media. I'll buy up a whole stock of Obama dolls and send them to everybody that works at CNN Fake News and Conspiracy TV MS, starting with crazy, you know, liberal Joe in the morning. He needs one of these Obama dolls to make him feel better.
The fact of the matter is, they wanted this story to be true. Let's say that they were honest and motivated and professional and you know, their hands are clean. But they cannot deny that they wanted the story of the Manchurian Candidate to be true. They wanted the story of Trump being programmed by Vladimir Putin to be true. They wanted it so badly that they continued to flog every little bit and to minimize the evidence that suggested that maybe they were off track here.
All right, great reporting, both of you. We appreciate it. Geraldo, thank you, and Dan Bongino. When we come back, Ed Henry, Sebastian Gorka on major news at the State Department and CIA. Straight ahead.
Touch is how we communicate with those we love.
We have other big news out of Washington tonight. Rex Tillerson, he is out as Secretary of State. President Trump now nominating current CIA Director Mike Pompeo to replace Tillerson. And the president has picked Gina Haspel, who is a seasoned spy master with a track record of being tough on terror and terrorists, to replace Pompeo. Now, Haspel would become the first female director in CIA history if, in fact, she is confirmed. However, tonight there's talk on Capitol Hill that Democrats may fight Haspel's historic nomination due to her past involvement running overseas black sites that were set up following the 9/11 terrorist attacks that killed 3,000 Americans. Joining us now with more, Fox News Chief National Correspondent Ed Henry. By the way, Ed will be filling in for our own Shannon Bream tonight at 11 Eastern. Also with us, Fox News National Security Strategist, former Deputy Assistant to the President, Dr. Sebastian Gorka. You know, Ed, the amazing thing about this, 3,000 Americans were killed here. 3,000. If you go to Gitmo, there were 3 people total that were ever waterboarded, in spite of all the debate we had in the country. 3. One of them was Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, which, because of that action, yeah, it's definitely tough, it led to the Courier, and that led to bin Laden, and that led to killing bin Laden, without which he would probably still be alive today. We can't have evil exist in this world without doing something to counter it. And if it means that terrorists caught on a battlefield are forced to answer questions, well, sadly, that's what you have to do because you're dealing with evil.
And so Gina Haspel was at the center of that. During the Bush administration, she spent time in Turkey, Central Asia. She was running the New York office for the CIA and was a liaison to the FBI in the Obama years when Osama bin Laden, as you mentioned, was killed. So this was someone who, yes, she was involved in the black sites, the so-called black sites, where you had enhanced interrogation techniques. Critics call it torture. You're right. There's already been a debate, and we can expect there will be an even bigger debate in the days ahead. You have Democrats like Chuck Schumer, Dianne Feinstein already saying they'll use these confirmation hearings to ask sharp questions about the behavior post 9/11. But by the way, there'll be some Republicans like John McCain already out with tough comments tonight saying she was involved in torture. They're going to give her a tough ride in the confirmation. But here's the bottom line. This is something I've talked to people in the White House about tonight, and they say they're spoiling for this fight. If Democrats and some Republicans in the Senate want to try to block President Trump from nominating the first female to run the CIA, all because she was too tough on terrorists. Wow. That is a fight they will have in a midterm election year.
Good luck taking that position, but I guarantee you by the time all is said and done, they'll back off that. I've known Mike Pompeo, Dr. Gorka, for a lot of years. I like him. He has a tough job. He did a good job as the CIA director. He had a lot of mess to clean up. I'm not sure how far he's gotten in all of that. And the thing that I like about Pompeo is you're always able to have a conversation with him, and he would listen, whether you agree or disagree. And I found him, you know, in the case of Rex Tillerson, I never talked to the guy once. He seemed never to be available for the media, and he was at odds, especially on the Iranian policy of the president. I mean, President Trump never wanted to extend that Iranian deal once, but he was fighting within his own, you know, just his own, in this particular case, State Department.
Absolutely. I have the same opinion of Mike Pompeo as well. Not only is he loyal to the president, not only does he believe in the Make America Great Again agenda, he will go down fighting to clean the swamp. He's done some, very quietly, he's done some amazing things at CIA, and I can think of no better person to clean the real swamp that is Foggy Bottom and the State Department. Not only does he listen to other people, in my personal experience, Mike also reaches out for good counsel from people who are outside the swamp. So Rex failed at the State Department. He isolated the political appointees from the front office. He didn't return calls from our ambassadors. It was time for him to go, and I can think of very few people who will be as great in Foggy Bottom as Mike Pompeo, Sean.
What is his reputation on Capitol Hill, Ed Henry?
Very strong. He was a Tea Party Republican, so initially came in and was seen as more of a conservative, but reached across the aisle a bit. First in his class at West Point, certainly won the respect of Democrats on the Hill with his prowess on national security, and somebody that a lot of people raise their eyebrows. Is this Tea Party guy going to be able to run the bureaucracy at the CIA? By all accounts, we haven't heard maybe a single Democrat really raise questions about that. I think the bigger question is he going to be too close to the president compared to Tillerson and be more of a yes man? That's going to be an issue for him because Tillerson, as you say, was at odds on all of these things. Will he be agreeing too much?
One last question for Dr. Gorka. You know, you look at the House Intel report, no evidence 14 months in of Trump-Russia collusion, and they want to keep going and going and going. And then you got a special counsel that it appears nothing is related to Trump-Russia collusion that he's even investigating.
Yeah, let's just focus on two things here. Number one, Mike Pompeo will never be a yes man. That's not a criticism we have to worry about. And secondly, they're just insane, Sean. Listen to what the news, I did an interview earlier today where they're talking about Rex Tillerson was fired because he said something negative about Putin yesterday. I was told by a cabinet member, Sean, in December that the plan is to have Mike Pompeo replace Rex Tillerson at the State Department. That's 3 months ago. That's reality.
Everybody's been here in the room. Well, all right, guys, good to see you. By the way, Ed will be watching tonight. Ed Henry filling in for Shannon Bream at 11 Eastern, 8 Pacific. All right, when we come back, I have a mini monologue on people like Louis Farrakhan and Hillary Clinton and why the Democrats say these horrific things and support horrific people. And we're awaiting the election results in Pennsylvania, that special election in the 18th Congressional District. We'll follow that as well. Straight ahead. All right, for decades, the left, what have they employed? Identity politics in order to divide America. And, of course, we see this every election, manipulate the elections. The race card, gender card, rich versus poor, old versus young, men versus women. Now, these are all tactics, predictable tactics, that the left uses in order to claim the moral high ground. Now, of course, this despicable strategy is built on a foundation of lies. Now, for years, prominent elected Democrats, they have palled around with one of America's biggest, most prominent racist and anti-Semites, a guy by the name of Louis Farrakhan. And then there's Hillary Clinton. Now, she continues to play the race and gender card and is still whining and making excuses about why she lost the election. And in the process, she's insulting women and every American who voted for Donald Trump. We'll break that down in tonight's mini monologue. All right, so Louis Farrakhan, he purports to be a great leader and minister of the Nation of Islam, but in reality, he is a small-minded, bigoted racist who peddles hatred and, of course, conspiracy theories to anybody that will listen to him. And sadly, this includes 8 Democratic members of Congress. Now, even Barack Obama was pictured at an event with Farrakhan prior to becoming president in 2005. Now, during the 2008 election, the Congressional Black Caucus, they made sure that no American saw that picture. That picture never saw the light of day. And that's according to the man who actually took the picture. Now, tonight we're asking one obvious question. If these Democrats really cared, as they say, about combating racism, pushing equality, well, why would they have ties to that vile human being? Here are just a few of his bigoted views. Take a look.
Here the Jews don't like Farrakhan, so they call me Hitler. Well, that's a good name. Hitler was a very great man. The satanic Jews, they control everything and mostly everybody. There were many Israelis and Zionist Jews in key roles in the 9/11 attacks. Because you see, white people deserve to die. And they know, so they think it's us coming to do it. Caucasian mean weak-blooded, weak-boned, stale-faced. That pale, what the Indian call a pale man. There is no human being on earth that has murdered more living things than the Caucasian. He's a murderer and a liar. But when we die and they die, then soon we're going to sit at a table and talk about we tired. We want some of this earth. We'll tear this goddamn country up.
Tear the country apart. Wow. Now, in light of even the more bigoted remarks made by Farrakhan in January, House Republicans introduced a resolution condemning him, and the RNC released a memo which calls out members of Congress that have ties to Farrakhan, calling them, quote, the hateful Farrakhan 8. Where's the moral outrage of the left? Where are the Democrats calling for Ellison, Waters, and others to explain their ties to this bigot, racist, and anti-Semite? By the way, spoiler alert, you're not going to hear outrage from liberals on this topic. Why? It doesn't help them politically. That's sad. And then, of course, you have Hillary Clinton during an appearance in India over the weekend. Hillary made no mention of Farrakhan, but instead she served up a big cup of Democratic identity politics, all while slamming those irredeemable deplorables, people who voted for Donald Trump, with a special slam for white women. Really? Watch this.
We do not do well with white men, and we don't do well with married white women. And part of that is an identification with the Republican Party and a sort of ongoing pressure to vote the way that your husband, your boss, your son, whoever, believes you should.
How insulting are those remarks? In her mind, all white women who voted for Trump only listen to men. You don't think she should apologize for those offensive remarks? Joining us now with reaction, Fox News contributor Tommy Lahren and Catalina magazine publisher Kathy Aru. Is Farrakhan a racist and anti-Semite?
Yeah, absolutely.
What about all these Democrats that are friends with him, take pictures with him, go to events with him?
In 2005, I mean, he's a non-player. He's a non-player in politics. Because you take a photo with someone, he's a player in D.C.?
All right, he's been a known anti-Semite.
20
and
years.
A known,
he's old news.
Can I finish?
Okay.
And a known racist.
Yeah.
And he made these remarks last weekend. And these guys won't say a negative word about him.
Sounds like President Trump, non-Latino, non-Muslim. I mean, this is a racist living in the White House, so it doesn't sound very different from Farrakhan to me.
What has he ever said that's racist?
I'm sorry?
What's racist?
Oh, Mexicans are rapists and murderers.
Okay.
That was about a year ago. That was more current than Farrakhan. Farrakhan's 2005.
He never, ever said, you know, if you have to lie to make a point on this program.
Lie?
Lie.
He didn't say
because
that?
President Trump... Some, and you know what? I went down to Texas. That's correct. He said some.
Oh,
he said some. That's correct.
That's not racist.
And there's a big. Yeah. Well, some are. Some.
Okay.
Now, many come here because they want opportunity, but some come here and they commit crimes.
All right.
Kate Steinle, for example. Let's bring in Tommy Ladd. Tommy.
Well, I thought that the left stood on the moral high ground, so I think that you would be the first ones to condemn language like this. But it just goes to show that the left, the Democrats, they're not anti-bigotry, they're not anti-racism, they are just anti-Trump. And this is shown clearly once again because you can't even admit it.
I did condemn it.
I
didn't support him. I condemned it, but I said Trump is exactly like the person you're portraying here. Yeah, if Farrakhan is awful, so is Trump. I'm sorry?
You're comparing the two.
Yes,
This just shows how delusional you are, Kathy, because you're comparing the two.
But Tommy, the problem is Kathy made up something that Trump said. Now, many people come here from countries because they want hope and opportunity.
Right.
But when I sat through that briefing that I showed earlier, Tommy, 642,000 crimes committed against Texans in a 7-year period by illegal immigrant criminals, and some of those crimes were murder.
So
they will not admit that. They will not admit the actual quote that Donald Trump said. He said some people are coming over here and they shouldn't be here. Do you agree?
He said everyone that's coming across that border, are they all good people? And
no, he never said those words.
He said some are good people.
And he was enjoying his taco salad.
That's the truth.
Yeah.
Why do you have to make up words he didn't say to make your point?
He's so pro-Hispanic.
Why can't you just say that these Democratic congressmen should condemn Farrakhan and denounce him and stay away from him?
It's like saying now that Republicans shouldn't get near David Duke. It's the same kind of politics.
David Duke, I wouldn't go near him.
Right. Well, no one's getting near Farrakhan right now.
Excuse me, there are 8 congressmen that won't say a negative word against him.
They're not getting paid by this guy. They're not hanging out with this guy.
They're not getting paid.
No.
Oh, okay. You have to be paid by the racist
and
anti-Semite.
They're not hanging out with this person.
But you can hang out with them as long as you're paying.
No, they have nothing to do with this person. Old photos. Give me a break.
Joe Concha, when we come back, thank you both. The most outrageous meltdowns in the media in the last 24 hours. 2007, these past 24 hours of press coverage, well, once again, proves my point. Let's start with the media's coverage of the House Intel Committee. They released a report that says Donald Trump, no Russia collusion. Let's watch the coverage.
This has been a highly partisan investigation from the start.
Russia tried to interfere in the election on behalf of Donald Trump. And yet they claim in this report made for talk radio that that wasn't the case. Why did they lie when everybody knows they're lying?
Surprised? No. Outraged? Yes. For the reason that is that this should be something from the get-go that's bigger than partisanship. But in the House committee, it's never been.
If this report were written on toilet paper, I wouldn't stoop to wipe my ass with it. These people owe us more.
And earlier today, the media was quick to slam Trump's new pick to head the CIA. Take a look.
There is controversy in her past. She was involved with the torture programs after September 11th and then involved with destroying videotapes of the matter also. That might be something that could be problematic.
No question. She was involved in one of the most difficult, controversial eras in the CIA.
He said this repeatedly on the campaign trail, that waterboarding didn't go far enough, that he would do that, and worse, Gina Haspel has a real history with enhanced interrogation in the CIA.
He's doing torture. Who's that benefit? It's not benefiting the voters in Erie, and by the way, it's not going to help him get elected anywhere in Pennsylvania.
Here with reaction from the Hill, media critic, analyst, Joe Concha. What's up, sir?
Hey, Sean. What's happening?
What's your, it's so predictable. You know, that's a big deal after 14 months that the House Intel Committee and Adam Schiff himself, who got destroyed by Meghan McCain, can't give us one bit of evidence of Trump-Russia collusion.
58 seconds was given to that story last night on the 3 evening networks, and NBC actually just ignored it altogether. And that's amazing when you consider the MRC study that came out last week that showed 204 minutes in January and February alone was given to Mueller and Russia, and only 12 minutes to the economy and jobs, and even a majority of that coverage was negative, which is a tough thing to do. Because so remember, 17 times less coverage towards the economy and jobs than Mueller and Russia. And then last night, when one report from 4 of the investigations comes out, one network ignores it, and 2 other networks only give it maybe less than 30 seconds. You can't remotely do any analysis into that report as a result. So, yeah, that was disappointing to see.
So I'm looking at this Pennsylvania race that's been going on. With all due respect to the Republican, a weak candidate came in third. It's a district that's going to change. Right now, it is about 2,500 vote difference with 520 of 593 precincts reporting. Very close race. No matter if the guy won, if he didn't win by 20 points, it was going to be a Trump loss. If he wins, it's going to be a Trump loss. If the other guy wins, it's going to, and it's if the other candidates mean nothing in this particular race. Then we had the big blue wave that was going to happen in Texas. They ignored that because it didn't come back the way they wanted. Are we wrong to interpret, or the media interpret these elections and not factor in who the candidates are, what's going on in those particular districts?
I think the precedent, Sean, we saw down in Alabama with Roy Moore, who was obviously a horrible candidate. He only won a statewide race by 4 points 4 years before that, and obviously there were all those allegations against him that really stuck. So, but that became a referendum on President Trump, and now maybe we're seeing it in Pennsylvania. We don't know how that race is going to turn out. I know my New York Times needle isn't up right now because certain votes aren't coming in from one county, and we all depend on that. But yeah, it seems to be picking and choosing what matters and what doesn't. To this point, at least as far as congressional races, President Trump's done pretty well in special elections. Obviously, the Senate race in Alabama didn't go well. So, yeah, the narrative will shift determined by the results of a certain race. Did you want to talk about Gina Haspel as well? Because I had some thoughts on that.
Real quick. You have 20 seconds. Go.
Yeah, sure. Oh, sure. Well, look, this is the first female ever to be nominated for the CIA. And if this was another president, we'd be talking about how the president was championing women, how he's putting them in a position of power like he did with Kellyanne Conway as the first campaign manager, or Sarah Sanders as one of the few female press secretaries. We're not seeing that sort of coverage now anymore. Instead, we're focusing on torture. But I agree with Ed Henry, who said before, if we're going to focus on terrorism, this is it.
Thanks, Joe. Bye. We're going to look at that race in Pennsylvania. Very close. Look at that, 49-49. We'll have an update next.